Welcome in everyone to another live edition of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin, riding solo tonight as my co-host is finishing up his vacation. We'll be back next week when training camp kicks off, but lots of news to talk about today in Ravens world. And no better place to start with the new addition. The Ravens did make a signing today, a signing that didn't come as a huge surprise. Certainly, if you've been following the Ravens, knowing that they had this guy in for a visit quite some time ago, and brought him in today or Wednesday, I believe he came back to with the expectation that he was not going to leave without a contract being signed. And of course, his former Bears safety Eddie Jackson was with the Bears for the first was it 7 years of his career? I believe it is. 7 years of his career spent in Chicago, where he earned 2 Pro Bowl nods, including 1 All-Pro nod in what year was this? Was that 2018 that he was named the All-Pro after having 6 interceptions, forcing 2 fumbles, and having 3 return touchdowns in that season. So familiar face in the sense that he's reuniting with another All-Pro and linebacker Roquan Smith. It's pretty obvious and clear that those two had a very close relationship, and so I'm sure that Roquan is hyped to get Eddie back on his team and now playing for the Ravens here. But yeah, just a great veteran signing, kind of a classic Ravens signing, if you will, and that they're bringing in a guy who's still got some tread left on the tires, got him for just a 1-year deal. And what I would take that as, he's a 30-year-old guy. I think he'll turn 31 at the end of December of this year. So signing a 1-year deal, well, I would have preferred maybe a multi-year deal, not just to be able to kind of have more flexibility when it comes to the cap, but also I think he's got a lot of ball left in him. And so what I take this 1-year deal as that, he wants to have the opportunity to hit free agency again. It's still a young enough age at just 31 that, he could sign a more lucrative long-term deal maybe next offseason. So just a 1-year deal. Not sure of the details as far as the value of the contract, how much he's making. But yeah, 30-year-old vet, 2-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro, 15 career interceptions, 6 career touchdowns. And yeah, it's kind of funny because while this is a big signing in my mind, it is interesting that he's probably still the 3rd best safety on his own team. And so I'm not, it's not like because while I said, like I tweeted out this was a position of need, it was a position of need, and that they lost Geno Stone and obviously wanted to keep Kyle Hamilton in a role that's more flexible and not, force him to play a more traditional safety role. So they knew they needed to add a piece. Didn't feel comfortable with the young guys that they had in the building to step into that big of a role. So they knew they had to add a piece, and this is a hell of a player. And despite the fact that he's a 2-time Pro Bowler and 1-time All-Pro, we got some studs on this team at safety. So it's kind of funny that he's still, in my opinion, the 3rd best safety while still being a really, really good player. They need to fill the role of Geno Stone. There's no doubt about it. But I think what this really was for and why, they wanted to make sure they brought in a safety. It wasn't Eddie Jackson. They had other guys in. They had Jamal Adams come in for a workout. And I can't recall, but I do believe there was a couple other veteran safeties that were brought in. But I think the real reason why they brought him in is really just like I mentioned earlier, the ability to continue to play Kyle Hamilton in areas outside of the traditional safety role. And I want to put this graphic up here for you guys so you can really see just how many different roles and how many different places. Oh, shout out to Adit with I have it up, and I looked down after Adley sent that ball to foul territory, and the third baseman slid into the dugout of the Orioles, and I looked down, and by the time I looked back up, Adley had hit a 2-run shot, followed. And I'm going to beat you to this one, Adit. Kowser just went yard as well. So what a way to kick off the second half of the baseball season, up 4-0 against the defending champ Texas Rangers. So shout out to the Orioles. But this graphic I wanted to throw up here. So as you can see here, while Kyle Hamilton is labeled as the strong safety on this team, still labeled as the strong safety on this team, even after Eddie Jackson's arrival, he did a whole lot of other things. Not just, in fact, strong safety was the position he played at fourth most when it comes to frequency. So he was primarily used as a slot corner last season, playing 465 snaps there, then followed by free safety, playing 301 snaps at free safety. Now, I will mention that Marcus Williams missing time last year and then also being hampered by the injury may have increased that number. And maybe if we had a full season of a healthy Marcus Williams, that number might go down. But nonetheless, 301 snaps were spent at free safety. 147 were spent at inside linebacker, presumably in the dime package when maybe Patrick Queen might, take a seat and they'd allow him or allow Cal Hamilton to take over that linebacker role just to bring more speed to the position in guaranteed third down passing situations. Obviously still big enough to handle, in case the team wants to get slick and try and slide a run in there. Obviously Kyle Hamilton with his size, his length, his ability to tackle around the line of scrimmage could still fill in there. So all the way down to the fourth most frequent, he did play strong safety, 89 snaps in total. Outside linebacker played 58 snaps. If you guys remember, watching him, he's one of our better pass rushers. Had 3 sacks in just one game. So, and then played 5 snaps at wide corner, presumably following a tight end out there like Travis Kelce is what I would assume without, having those snaps right in front of me. But as you can see, this flexibility is something that Zach Orr did not want to give up, right? He wanted to have the ability to move Kyle Hamilton to all these different positions. If they don't sign Eddie Jackson, chances are they'd have to limit the amount of times we see him in the slot, limit the amount of times we see him at inside linebacker, and he'd have to probably play a ton of strong safety snaps. So it just allows us to be so much more multiple, allows the defense to be able to hide what they're actually doing, maybe show one thing pre-snap and then immediately change after the snap is made. So yeah, man, it's a big signing. I got to imagine this is one of, if not the best and strongest secondaries in the entire league. I mean, when you look at what they're putting out there from an entire, from if you just look at the starting positions in the secondary, I mean, you're talking one hell of a group when you have the safeties of Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton, and now Eddie Jackson. And then, yeah, young corner, but still a lot is expected of both of these young corners in TJ Tampa and Nate Wiggins. And then, look, I think people are sleeping a bit on what Marlon Humphrey's bringing. He's had some injury issues the last couple seasons that have not only kept him off the field, but also, I think, hampered him when he was on the field. So I expect Marlon Humphrey to bounce back this season and have a much more productive year, and hopefully have a year where he's just able to be on the field a lot more often. That's my biggest hope. And then let's not forget, there's a lot of slot guys that were able to participate a lot last year and were really making moves. Brandon Stevens, another outside corner. Man, I almost forgot that guy. The stud that he turned into last season. Can't forget what he's bringing. So yeah, I think this is one of the very best secondaries in all of football, and adding a guy like Eddie Jackson days before training camp, man, that's a heck of a signing. Great job from Eric DeCosta. And yeah, it's just gotten a little bit better. Now, I hope they're not done. I've seen some rumors that they're still interested in potentially trading for Matthew Judon and have a return there at the edge position. Man, if you're telling me they're getting Eddie Jackson and then they make a move to get Matt Judon after they lost their top edge guy in Jadeveon Clowney last season, man, I'd feel a whole lot more comfortable about, what they got on the defensive side of the ball. Adit Mahmoud, happy birthday. Shout out. And happy birthday yesterday to Lisa Ann Frankel. Absolutely. I hope you guys are enjoying your birthdays. And, as you become a certain age, like I don't really get presents anymore, but I can count on any meal I want on my birthday. So hopefully if presents aren't in the plans, that you at least get a good meal, good dessert. And so happy birthday to Lisa Ann. Happy birthday to Adit Mahmoud. And yeah, appreciate you keeping me up to date on all the O's action. Certainly. What's going on, Don C? Appreciate it. He's loving the pick. I love it. Carla, thank you for the happy Friday. Yeah, happy Friday to all. And Sedarian, versatility is another thing about Eddie Jackson's game. Played free safety, played strong safety. I mean, they can put these guys anywhere they want. The opposing offenses aren't going to know what the hell these guys are doing. And when the snap, comes, then all of a sudden these guys are sprinting to different places. It's going to cause pause for the quarterback. And if nothing else, if you can make that quarterback have to think for a second, I mean, that changes a lot. In a game where timing is of the utmost importance, in a game where to be open in the NFL, it looks so different than to be open at the college level and, of course, at high school. You're not open by a whole lot when you're considered open in the NFL. So if you can cause any hesitation by the quarterback, any thinking by the quarterback, and not just be able to read and react, then you're certainly you kind of have a leg up for the rest of the league. But shout out to Katie, my love, also in the chat. I appreciate you. But yeah, we have a lot else to talk about here. Not just the exciting news of Eddie Jackson, but I did want to get into some of the other stuff that was interesting, like Lamar Jackson. I didn't expect to see this today, that Lamar Jackson and Troy Aikman are currently in a copyright battle over the number 8. And it's surprising because apparently Troy Aikman has a beer company, a beer brand, I should say, known as simply 8. Not the number, but the word spelled out 8. And of course, Lamar Jackson has his apparel company, Era 8 Apparel, that is very successful. And he's certainly built a brand around himself and his number 8. So according to the article here, Lamar Jackson and Troy Aikman are currently grappling over a copyright issue relating to that number 8. And apparently Lamar Jackson's team has reached out to Troy Aikman and his team, saying that, Lamar has expended considerable time. This is a quote directly from the article that shout out, by the way, to Pro Football Talk, where I'm reading this article at. And let me give credit to the author, Mike Florio. Mike Flores, as Lamar Jackson calls him. But from the article here, we have a quote that Lamar Jackson has filed saying that he has expended considerable time, effort, and expense in promoting, advertising, and popularizing the number 8 in connection with his personality and fame, and is well known by this number due to his notoriety and fame, along with his promotion of this number in his trademarks and in media coverage. Now, the interesting thing is that both people apparently hold some legal protection over some form of the number. So there's definitely some confusion here. I'm not exactly sure, what part of what part of that number Aikman has some sort of ownership over for copyright issues and what part Lamar Jackson has. But apparently Lamar Jackson did submit paperwork to Troy Aikman's team on July 9th. And apparently Aikman's appeal is due in by August 18th. So I guess we're still going to have to wait and see as to how all this is going down. But yeah, a bit awkwardness when the upcoming Monday Night Football game, where apparently there's going to be some sort of there's always a pre-production meeting with the members of the production team and the team that they're covering. And so, yeah, let's just hope that there's no uncomfortability between the two. I'm not sure if Lamar Jackson would be involved in those meetings. I would assume it's just the Ravens brass or some sort of representatives. But I'd be surprised if Lamar Jackson's involved in those meetings. But nonetheless, there is a battle between Lamar and Troy Aikman over the copyright for the number 8. So we'll have to keep you guys up to date on what all is going on there. But yeah, it is kind of interesting here. Fighting over copyright of the number 8. But we'll keep you up to date if anything changes. And I also wanted to talk about and spend a little bit of time today because there's a bit of, first of all, there's some crazy news coming out about what Derrick Henry goes through to keep himself in shape, to keep his body where it needs to be at the top of his game. And then also, I want to get your guys' take on an opinion that was shared by a member of the Tennessee Titans media about, how Tennessee Titans fans should be rooting for Derrick Henry and kind of the limits he wants to set on that. And I want to get your takes because, of course, most recently we had Joe Flacco playing for the Cleveland Browns and really saved their season and got them into the playoffs. And I know there was a lot of conflicted Ravens fans going, man, that's my guy. I love me some Joe, what he did for our team. But he's a Brown now. So how do you kind of handle rooting for the player, but not for the team he plays? So I want to get into that. But first and foremost, I've got to share with you guys. I mean, this is insane. The stuff, and look, there's no question why high-level athletes, why the ones that can stay at that high level, why they stay there. We've heard plenty of guys talk about, what it takes to keep their bodies at the level it's needed to play at the NFL, the NBA. We've heard guys of all different sports talk about it, but I wanted to throw this up here because Derrick Henry's financial advisor, Pete Kodos, by the way, this is from Ryan Mink, his Twitter account. So shout out to Ryan Mink, of course, works with the Ravens. But Henry's financial advisor, Pete Kodos, estimates that Derrick Henry spends $240,000 annually on keeping his body in the necessary shape, which includes employing a personal chef, which, by the way, that's the one thing. Like, I don't make a ton of money. I've always thought about what it would be like to be uber rich, to be ultra wealthy. And that's got to be the best, to have your own personal chef, a chef that you could pay enough money to where you could say, I don't want you working any other job. I want you working for me to bake every meal I have. I mean, that's just got to be amazing to have a chef, not just any person, just a professional trained chef to say, look, I want to eat healthy. I'm sure Derrick Henry eats a lot as far as the quantity. I mean, he's a big guy. He's 245 pounds, 250 pounds. I don't think you get to that weight without eating anything, with eating small portions. But to know that you could say, I want it this way. I want my food to taste like this. I want it to have, I don't want to have, whatever you're thinking. I don't want to no fried foods, whatever it is. Okay. As you can see, he goes on to talk about Henry eats no fried foods. He eats no gluten, no dairy, or any artificial sugars. During the season, he doesn't eat his first meal until 4 or 5 p.m. So obviously he does the intermittent fasting. I know a lot of people have done that. It's been very popular. But yeah, doesn't eat his first meal until 4 or 5 and eats only one other meal, usually at 8. So I guess he'll eat his first meal at 4 and eat dinner, his final meal at 8 p.m. And this is in the offseason. So in the offseason, his first meal is around 1 p.m. Okay, so it's a little bit different whether he's in season or not. When he does eat, he consumes nearly enough for a pride of lions. Okay, this is what I was expecting. So when he does eat, he goes crazy. He said, I probably eat 3 chicken breasts, some rice, some broccoli. Then I have some gluten-free pancakes, scrambled eggs, diced potatoes, home fries, and some steak. Okay, what's the difference between diced potatoes and home fries? I mean, they're both potato, right? I mean, I guess maybe how they're prepared. So you have diced potatoes and home fries? Isn't that like having an omelet with a side of scrambled eggs? Isn't it like a redundancy there? I don't know if I'm crazy, and some steak on top of it. And before practice, he might have some kale, an avocado, or a banana just to get something in his system. 3 days a week, he takes IV fluids that contain a shot of vitamin E, a word I can't pronounce, Q10, and other nutrients. So yeah, this guy plays no games when it comes to taking care of his body and making sure he's able to perform at the very highest of levels. And I know this is probably the same for a lot of these guys. I mean, we always see LeBron James, his workouts and his training regimen is pretty well documented on social media. And despite the fact that he's in year 22, he works out like he's just breaking into the league. The guy's, absolutely insane when it comes to the way he takes care of his body. And the way, yes, Dodsey, I do eat the heck out of some PB&Js. Nothing wrong with that. But I bet Derrick Henry don't eat no PB&Js. I don't know if when like processed food, like I don't know if you're allowed to eat any of that stuff. If you're on one of these strict diets, but yeah, I'll smash me some PB&J. That's all you need, man. You get that, and that's all you need. But yeah, this dude puts in an incredible amount of effort to making sure not only like we see the workout videos where he's got weights on top of weights, strapped around weights, But not just that. It's also making sure what he puts in his body is, top notch. And that's why he's been so good for so long. And I think he's got so much tread left on his tires, despite, being pretty old when it comes to an NFL running back. Not pretty, but he's getting up there when it comes to NFL running backs. So yeah, shout out to Derrick Henry. I just hope that, as many guys that can afford it, because look, 240,000, that's no pocket change. And that's obviously an investment that he gets that return on his investment in the sum of millions and millions of dollars from his NFL contract. There's plenty of guys at the back end of that roster that might only make 240. That might be their gross or their net. Which one is it? That might not even be what he's bringing home. And of course, they got to pay their agents. They got to pay, maybe lawyers or whoever they got to pay. And they got to pay income tax. So a lot of these guys just can't simply afford to do what Derrick Henry does. But to those who can, to the veterans, the elite of the elite, the guys that are making that crazy money, the guys who aren't, the 3 and out, like a lot of these athletes, 2-3 years, and then they're done. For those elites that can stick around for 10, 12, 15 years, it's probably a pretty common occurrence that these guys are all putting that kind of money into their bodies and making sure that they can maximize their earning income as long as possible. Because there's no telling that if Derrick Henry didn't put this kind of effort in, didn't put that kind of money into it, maybe he's not around as long as he is. Maybe he's only making vet minimums, this point in his career, rather than, the kind of scratch he's pulling in. So shout out to him. But also, he did kick back a little bit on a reporter that covers let me see if I can find it here, that he covers the Tennessee Titans, that had some, it's interesting. Like, I guess he's telling fans what you're allowed to root for, or the limits to how you can root for a former member of your team, no matter how great he is. Like, he's saying that there's limits to how you're going to root if you call yourself a true fan. So this is Paul Kaharski, who says, if you root for Derrick Henry to the extent that you want the Ravens to win so much I think he meant as a team, you are not the Titans fan you think you are, period. Not up for debate. If they are on the goal line at the end of the game, they're trailing by 4, and you want him to score, you are not the Tennessee Titans fan you think you are. So I wanted to kind of get your guys' take on that. Is that true? Because look, Derrick Henry, he tweeted back at him. He said what did he say? Basically, go find something to do. I'm gonna try and track that down for you guys. But basically, say go get a life is basically what Derrick Henry tweeted back to him. And so, look, my initial reaction: defend our guys, right? Derrick Henry is a Raven. Defend our guys. Who is this guy to tell anybody how to root? But he's not really attacking Derrick Henry. He's really telling Titans. He's kind of going at Titans fans. So I was like, okay, I don't have to defend my guys, even though Derrick Henry felt the need to respond, and that's fine. But to me, he's not attacking Derrick Henry. He's saying you're not a real Titans fan if you're rooting for them to win the game. And I will say, I don't disagree with him. I know you guys are going to say I might be kind of crazy, or I'm being unreasonable here, but I don't I kind of agree what he's saying. Like, you can root for Derrick Henry, but you can't root for the Ravens to win the game. And I think a lot of Ravens fans did the same when it came to Joe Flacco. Like, I found it very hard to root against Joe Flacco. Like, to root for him to do poorly was not easy for me. But it's super easy for me to root for the Browns to lose and for the Browns to do poorly. So, like, I get what he's saying. Like, I never, ever was like, oh, man. Like, if it was a scenario just like he's describing, where the Browns are down by 4, Joe Flacco has the ball, say, at the 8-yard line, it's 3rd and goal from the 8, and there's 5 seconds left. I'm not rooting for him to hit Amari Cooper for no tutty. I'm not rooting for him to find David Njoku in the flat for a touchdown. While I'd be like, oh, it's pretty cool. Like, when I pull up Joe Flacco's stat line, I see he had, say 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. I'm like, oh, good for Joe. It's cool that he had a pretty good game. But then I'm immediately going, but I hope they lost. And so in that scenario, I'm rooting against Joe. I'm saying I don't want Joe to find that because that would lead to a win against a team that, while, yeah, the Ravens aren't in the division with the Titans, but both those teams have been competing for seeding in the AFC over the last few years. And I have no problem from this guy saying, Titans fans, don't root for the Ravens to win games. You can root for Derrick Henry, and you can obviously hope that he stays healthy and hope that, he has a good a good run with the Ravens without rooting for the Ravens to win. Like, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing for Paul to say. So let's see here. Look at that. Okay. All right. So it looks like everyone is yeah, I'm rooting for Living Legend. Yeah, I'm rooting for both this year. I'm rooting for him to have a hell of a game, or a hell of a season, and I'm rooting for the Ravens to win every daggone game this year. Happy birthday to Michael Roundtree as well. Appreciate you spending some time with us on your birthday. That's pretty awesome. You could be anywhere. You could be listening to anyone, and you guys are out here hanging out with 410 Sports Talk. So that's pretty daggone cool. So we got 3 birthdays. I'm going to count Lisa Ann's, even though hers was yesterday. 3 birthdays in the chat today. Shout out to all you guys. That's awesome. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know as we get older, we don't always love counting birthdays. All right. We as when we're younger, it's funny. Like my son, he can't wait to get older. I'm like, you have no idea. But it's still, hey, say what you want. As you get older, you also realize no one's guaranteed another year. As I was a young man, I had, my wife talks about all the time. She said, you have more friends than anyone I know. I had a massive friend group that I spent a lot of time with, not just like, ancillary, not like I'm talking friends that I would spend time with. I had a massive group, and I just thought it was always going to stay that way. And as you get older, you kind of start to see that group whittle down, and you see that, not only is not everyone guaranteed an extra year, but also, as you grow older, you kind of grow apart. So it's an accomplishment, is what I'm getting at. Every year is an accomplishment. You're not guaranteed another year. So happy birthday. Hold on. Okay, Living Legend. All right. You know what I mean. The celebration of your birthday. Obviously you were only born once, no doubt about that. But yeah, keep it coming. Let me know if you guys agree with me. Am I wrong in saying that in agreeing with Paul? Like, I don't know Paul from a hole in the wall, but I tend to agree with him. You can root for Derrick Henry without rooting for the Ravens to win games. And I felt the exact same way about Joe Flacco last year. Let's see what Joseph has to say here. Joseph Eckert. Appreciate the super chat. Appreciate the generosity. He says, with around $6 million in cap space left, will they cut more players to get more free agent guys for need? It seems like they are short this year. Well, the only spots, like, so I'd have to go like position by position and go, where could they fit guys in? Even if it's just for competition purposes, even if it's not like we need a starter, even if it's just like we need more competition for young guys at that position. I don't think there's that many. Like, the only spots I could say, okay, you could add veteran depth at the very least for depth, or not even necessarily competition, like competing for starting spots, but even quality depth that I expect to have a realistic chance to make the team. Like, there's not many. Corner, okay, you could argue corner for me because we did have some losses that position, but I still feel pretty good. Arthur Maulet's back. Like, I feel good about what he brings to the slot. Marlon Humphrey, feel good. Brandon Stevens, Nate Wiggins, TJ Tampa. That's 5 corners right there. They typically keep 6. So, I mean, there ain't a whole lot of spots open. And I think we got some guys like Ardarius Washington, and, without having the roster pulled up right in front of me, just going off the top of my head. Let me see. I do actually have a tab open here, so I could pull it up. Oh, yeah, Pepe. I mean, we're forgetting about Pepe. We're forgetting about, Trayvon Mullen, Lamar's cousin, Jalen Armour-Davis, who, when healthy, could be a player. All those guys are competing for like one spot. So I don't even know if like bringing in a corner would be good. So I wouldn't say corner. Offensive line, I could see them adding someone if they have positional versatility, meaning that they can play tackle and guard. Because if they just bring in a tackle, It's like, when is he going to be out? Like, if Roger is who the Ravens hope he is, who we're all thinking he could be, Roger's your starter at right tackle. So if you bring in a guy at right tackle, let's say he's a tackle only, how can you even have him active on game day? Because you have a limited amount of, you have 46 roster spots of the 53 that are actually active. And McCary, being the versatile tool he is, he's going to be active. So you got 6 right there because you have your 5 starters, your 6 guy. I'm thinking they're going to have Samac as the backup center active because you don't want to have to put McCary in there, even though he could in case Linderbaum were to go down. So that's 7 active offensive linemen. And then I think they feel pretty good about Faalele in that if you're going to have an 8th guy, it's probably Faalele because we've seen him at left tackle. We've seen him at right tackle. We know McCary can play all 5. And then Samac is the backup center. I don't see him having more than 8 guys active. So unless you tell me that 8th guy, a free agent you're bringing in, is definitely better and you prefer him over Faalele, okay. So I guess there's a possibility at offensive line. And then where else? Like I outside linebacker, I'll give you outside linebacker. If you tell me they're going to add there, I'd be certainly for that, because at this point you're relying on Odafe Owe and Kyle Van Noy for a whole lot. And as good as Kyle Van Noy was last year, you can't necessarily say you count on that this year. Like, it was the best year of his career, and he did it in a year where he wasn't even on the team during training camp. He didn't sign till, the early parts of the season. So I would be okay with that. But that brings me back to, man, I would love to see them kick the tires on what it would cost to bring Matthew Judon back. I'm hearing a conditional 3rd round pick. So what I would take from conditional, meaning it's a 4th unless he plays either a certain amount of snaps or he accomplishes something statistically or he's named to a Pro Bowl, and then it triggers it being taken from a 4th to a 3rd is what I took. That rumor is that it's going to take a conditional 3rd, but it might not even take that. Like, we're not in the room. Like, we don't know what the Patriots are asking. They can't imagine. Like, I can't imagine the Patriots are going, we're competing for AFC East this year. Heck no. They got no chance, right? Like, they're the 4th best team in their own division. Not that they haven't made steps and improved. I think they have, but I don't think anyone's picking them to finish above the Jets with a healthy Aaron Rodgers. No one's picking them to finish above the Miami Dolphins after what they put together last season. And no one's putting them ahead. As much as Buffalo's lost, no one's putting them ahead of a Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills team that revamped much of their roster, but I still ain't putting I'm still not putting the Patriots ahead of them with a rookie Drake May and a rookie head coach. Nah, not doing it. So they might be like, look, we'll settle for a 4, not even a conditional 3, or maybe a 5 that conditions to a 4. I would at least kick the tires. We know what he brings to the locker room. They would welcome that. They put him in front of a mic every chance they could get when he was here. So they'd like that. He's still a heck of a player. I think he's still got plenty of left in that regard. And if we can use him in combination with those other guys, keep their snap counts low, keep them fresh, keep throwing fresh bodies. If they get anything out of David Ajabo, holy smokes, that could be a group of power. So to long-winded answer, Joseph, I don't think they'll have to. I mean, they're going to cut guys. There's no doubt they're going to cut guys because there's just too many good players and not enough spots for them. So the question is, how many do they cut? Can they package any of them to a team that maybe deals with a rash of injuries at a specific position? Let's say our 8th corner is super coveted. Maybe we could package and maybe get a late round pick or something to that degree. But as far as just signing free agents or acquiring veterans, I think the best position would be outside linebacker or the edge group, however you want to label it. But I don't see a lot of other positions where there's a whole lot, unless you're getting a bona fide guy. There's a whole lot of room for competition. See, Bowser's off this team. Bowser's not on the team anymore, Jeremiah. As far as I know, Bowser's gone. So, and that's part of the reason why it was so important for them to get a guy like Van Noy, who has positional versatility and that he's done everything. He's put his hand in dirt. He'll go get your quarterback. He'll play the run. He'll drop in coverage. So that's why we were like, oh, this makes perfect sense. Now, after that, he came out and said that, hey, this is a year where, again, I'm going to be able to focus on just being a pass rusher and totally just killed everything I said about, how he's got that ability to drop in coverage, which is what Bowser did. And a lot of these guys just aren't as good at it. But yeah, it turns out Van Noy is just going to be a pass rusher. At least that's what his expectation is. But thanks again, Joseph. Appreciate the comment. Appreciate the generosity. Don C, the legend, continues to grow. I'll mark it in the calendar. January, what was that? I saw it was January, end of January. I got you. I'll certainly give you a much deserved shout out. I think was it the 28th? It was something like that. But appreciate the generosity as always, Don C. Gifting a membership, which look, if DK was here, he might be able to. I think he gained some clarity on what all that means when you gift a membership, but I think someone has to accept it in the chat. Like, I think they have to accept it. And I think it gives you like a month of watching with no ads and other stuff, but I'm not exactly sure. But thank you so much, Don C. You are a legend. Appreciate your continued support and generosity. But yeah, but has anyone had any other? I think most people are in agreement. Like, even though Derrick Henry kind of kicked back at that reporter for saying you can't root for the Ravens to win if you're not a real Titans fan, he kicked back. But I kind of agree with him. I hate to say it, but I think that guy's onto something here. You can root for him, just don't root. Just don't root for the Ravens to win. I mean, if they're the NFC team, then you could go, all right, they don't affect us in any way. There's no seeding, nothing. The only chance we'd have meeting up is if both teams make it to the Super Bowl. Okay. I'll give you that. But yeah, not the fact that they're not in division competitors, but you can't tell me those two teams haven't been competing for top spots in the AFC over the last 5 years. And also, let's not forget, there's some bad blood between these two organizations. Their owner nixed a trade that would have sent Derrick Henry to us last season. And man, just imagine how things could have been different if Derrick Henry's in the backfield starting week 8 last year. And we love what we got from Gus. Gus put up, 12, 13 tutties. We're big Gus guys. Derrick Henry here we're talking about. And just imagining Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell before the injury. Oh, my goodness. And then Lamar back there with him. Holy smokes. What difference could that have made? We'll never know because even though, we got him this year, it's a different team. Every other team is different. So we'll never truly know. I love that, Living Legend. Say, I am not rooting for Patrick Queen. Well, Patrick Queen doesn't want you to root for him. He doesn't want any of us to root for him. He made that very clear in his actions since he's joined the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that he wants to be a villain. Again, like, it's just goofy. I know I'm jumping around here, but that's what happens when I'm all alone. I have no one in the back to help me. I got no one next to me to help. But yeah, Patrick Queen wants to be the villain so bad, and nobody cares. Like, it's like he wants he wants to show up at our stadium, put the Bane man. He wants to be what Terrell Suggs was against the Steelers, and he's just you're not that guy, pal. You're just not that guy. Good player for us. Certainly after Roquan was here, you became a better player. But you're not that guy, dude. Like, it's like one of those things where, like, I always tell people, sometimes it's okay to have fake confidence, because fake confidence will develop into real confidence. I tell people all the time, I'll hype myself up. I'll talk myself into doing something that if I really had truth serum, I might go, I'm probably not going to be the best at this, but I'm speaking it into existence. Yes, I'm going to be the best at this, and I'm going to absolutely kill it. And I'll try and fake confidence until it develops into real confidence. And I think that's what Patrick Queen is doing. I think he's a little nervous about not having Roquan next to him. He remembers what it was like before Roquan got here. The questions about his lack of physicality, his arm tackling and not, committing to the tackle, bringing guys down, his almost unwillingness to take on, like a pulling guard and do what needs to be done as an inside linebacker in the NFL. He let Roquan do that. He said, you go do all the heavy lifting. I'm going to just run free. And he did excel in that role. But now let's see how he does as Batman and not Robin. It's going to, will Patrick Queen wear the green dot? That's a good question, Don C, because he couldn't get it done here. I mean, we remember Chuck Clark was wearing the green dot when they were both here. And when Roquan got here, even mid-season, didn't care that it was mid-season. Guess who was wearing that daggone green dot as soon as he got here? It was Roquan, of course, because ideally the middle of your defense is the guy you want communicating because he can turn around, communicate easily with the secondary, and then yell ahead to the defensive line. It's a little harder when you're asking your safety to do that. How does your safety, who's lined up, a few yards deeper, how's he communicating with Justin Madubuike? How's he making sure that the defensive linemen are getting their positions right? He can't communicate to the corner on the right side corner. He can't do it. It's challenging. It's like guys have to, so it makes communication more difficult. And yet they still chose to give it to Chuck Clark over Pat Queen. So that should tell you something about Pat Queen. And yet, as soon as Roquan got here, they went, yeah, Chuck, it's Roquan's time. Because that's who you want it to have it. And if you don't have your linebacker have, I think that's an indication that your linebacker has some gaps in his game. And so, yeah, it'll be fun, interesting to see. I think Pat Queen's in for a rude awakening when he has to. Just imagine having to deal with Pat Ricard and then Derrick Henry. Like, I just don't see it. He's 70 pounds lighter or 80 pounds lighter than Pat Ricard. Like, that's substantial. And then Derrick Henry is 250 pounds, which again is 15 pounds heavier than Patrick Queen. So, yeah, I can't wait for that game, man. And it sucks because look, he brought it on himself. He wanted this. He could have left and be like, I had a great time there. I'm here now. And, but no, he took shots at our food. He took shots at our organization, took shots at the city. So he brought this on himself. And I just hope that he can handle the bet he's made and lay in it comfortably. Because, man, those Steeler fans, how long did they take to turn on him, folks? Like, how long before he's being booed? How long before he's answering questions in his post-game presser about the boos he's hearing from his hometown fans? Like, I remember all that. And maybe he had a total transformation, but maybe he is who he is, and Roquan just made him better. Like Roquan does. He makes everyone better. Hey, there you go. I love that, Lisa Ann. You can be friends with fans of other teams. I mean, one of my very best friends in this world is a diehard Niners fan. And let me tell you, when the Niners come to Baltimore, we go to the game and I scream in his ear the entire game. And if he has something to scream about, he will scream back. And he was at my house for the Super Bowl, surrounded by Ravens fans. And same with last Christmas. He was at my house. And so, yeah, it's okay. It's okay to be friends with fans of other teams. That's nothing wrong with that. Keep it cordial. But let me see here. Yeah, okay. Appreciate my man. Yes, Wilmer. Yes, you remembered. Absolutely. Was it I wanted to say your name, but I don't even know. Controller? Something controller. Yes, Wilmer. And Perry. Perry's back. Yeah, I didn't forget. Perry. Living legend over here. I didn't forget. But yeah, that's I think that's it for me tonight, guys. We got a huge week. Starting Sunday, the Ravens are on the field. Jimmy is back in the building. My co-host, my friend, my compadre, will be back next to me to help continue to keep you guys up to date on all things Ravens football. Absolutely can't wait for next week. All this, talking about, what ifs and hypotheticals. No, we got real football to talk about. We got real stuff to report on. We got just absolutely cannot wait. So shout out to you guys for spending some time with me and making this a little bit easier. I don't like doing this show by myself. I miss having a co-host. Miss my producers in the background, DK and Brad, but they're all busy tonight. So thank you guys once again for making this easy as possible for me, and appreciate all you guys do. But we'll be back soon the next couple of days. Don't forget Sunday. Yes, hit that like button. I do a terrible job of reminding people to hit the like button. It does help a lot. It pushes the stream out to more Ravens fans. So simply just clicking that thumbs up button does massive help for the stream. So if you guys could take a second, hit the like button. That would definitely help push us out to other Ravens fans. But that's it for us tonight. Talk to you guys soon. See you.